This is a Tracking the Tropics update with the certified most accurate weather team at First Coast News.
Well, good morning, Jacksonville, First Coast, or wherever you may be watching from here on First Coast News Plus. Thank you very much for stopping by. I'm meteorologist Robert Spetta, and always tracking the tropics here with you, trying to give you the best information I can without hype, but getting straight to the point here. And then I'm going to take some of your questions if you're watching on any of our social media platforms. So first off, let's talk about our area, located just towards the east of Jacksonville, actually. Just off the Cape, we have our X right there on the satellite. This is from the National Hurricane Center. And just as of 8 a.m. this morning, they did upgrade this area. It was upgraded to a medium risk yesterday. And now we have a 20% chance in the next 48 hours, 60% in the next 7 days. The point is an increasing likelihood of something developing along this front that's set up off of our coast, which, to go back a week now, we were talking about this risk, and we said, you know, we could be looking at a front develop out here. And anytime we see, and this is the exact verbiage I used a week ago today, anytime we see a front just like that set up across the southeast this time of year over those warm waters, we can see something quickly spin up. And that seems to be exactly the case of what's happening here. We have this convection that's developing just off the east coast of Florida, right over the Gulf Stream, so rather warm waters there. It's not conducive environment for like a rapidly intensifying hurricane, but you can see an area of low pressure. It's just natural dynamics spinning up here, and some of our high-resolution guidance is now picking up on that today as well, which is basically in line with what we are expecting. Now, despite the fact that you may not have something out there at this moment, still across the state of Florida, including from Tampa over towards Daytona, and yes, also into Jacksonville, we are once again going to be looking at those afternoon showers. And this is the forecast for Jacksonville, 90 degrees here on our Thursday. Scattered storms, heavy downpours in the outlook. But that might back off a bit as we go ahead into Friday. Despite a system developing, rain chances may be backing off just a bit. And I'm going to get to that. And well, let's talk about it right now. So let's take a look at our one of our guidance here as we look ahead into Friday. This is Friday afternoon. You can see the model picking up on an area of low pressure developing off the coast along this area, this boundary that has been setting up. But as that develops a bit more so, it actually may drag in a bit of dry air from the north, which means by Friday evening, we could be looking at improving conditions for fireworks and things like that. As far as rainfall and thunderstorms and like that, I still think we're going to have cloud cover and some pretty breezy conditions around the first coast. And we can see that here, our high resolution wind guidance here, just kind of showing you with the graph model along the coast. So Brunswick over towards St. Mary's, basically from Glenn, Camden County, all the way down towards Nassau, you're going to have a heightened risk of some winds gusting upwards of 10 to 20 miles per hour. Might see some gusts 25. Not tropical storm strength or anything like that, but it does create messy surf conditions here for Friday and even over towards Saturday, as well as an increased risk of rip currents, which is very important for Friday and Saturday because it's 4th of July weekend. Everybody wants to get out to the beach. I get it. You want to get out there. You want to enjoy the water. And it's going to be breezy and it's rough surf, rip currents. I worry actually more so about that setup versus full-on tropical storm. Because if there was a named storm at the coast, mindset for most people is, I'm not going in the water. There's a tropical storm off the coast. But if it's just a solid nor'easter with a low pressure area, I think people are like, all right, oops. All right. I hit the mic. Sorry about that. All right. I can head out to the water. I'll be fine. But it's actually a heightened risk of rip currents and dangerous surf. And these are the type of situations that worry me more than a full on storm sometimes. It's not so much of the direct impacts. It's indirect like that. Rip currents, and people just have the mindset that they can go in the water and then they get swept out. We see it time and time again. It's not just me. It's something we have seen in the past. So, yeah, be smart about it and make sure, everybody knows that there is that risk of that dangerous surf along our area beaches. This is by Saturday, about midday. And, yeah, you can see right there, Brunswick, 10, 20, 30 miles per hour. as we start to see this area of low pressure develop off the coast. And maybe at this point, if this model has its way, we could actually have a tropical depression in play. So here's another walkthrough, and there's the instability along the front that we've been talking about with these scattered showers, afternoon storms here on our Thursday. You can see the time frame right there on the top of the screen is right there. You can't see me pointing, but it's over there. Gosh, I gotta get the mirror on where I'm looking at. There's your low pressure area. This is by Friday morning, trying to develop along this spot we've been watching. But watch this. So we get those storms that do develop during the daytime here on Friday. So 2-3 o'clock, we're gonna have storms in the area. But you see how, due to that northeasterly breeze, any storms that develop along the sea breeze gets just brushed to the side by the overall flow. Now, this northeasterly breeze is still going to bring cloud cover. It's still going to bring spotty areas of rainfall. So I'm not saying everything's going to be super dry out there on Friday, but the chance of thunderstorms does back off a bit by the time Friday evening rolls around. Now, one worry I do have with fireworks, so, is that with that wind blowing, especially near the coast, people be launching those fireworks, and sometimes they may not go exactly where you anticipate, especially once it gets up to about 100, 200 feet in the air. Stuff could be getting blown around here. And on top of that, you're talking about gusty conditions. At least smoke does get dispersed pretty quickly, but so does sparks and things like that. So keep that in mind if you really want to get out there and blow some stuff up, I guess. And then we take a look at the overall moisture in the atmosphere. So this just, areas in blue indicate drier air, areas in darker green indicate that moist air. And this really just shows you that moisture being fed into this potential tropical low. But you can see just towards the north of Jacksonville, that area in blue, kind of dry air trying to get dragged in. So we're right on the borderline. I think as this moves towards the north and east, it's going to be a bigger problem for the Carolinas than the state of Florida, to be quite honest with you, because you could be looking at a little bit of a training effect in some of those rain bands on the right side of this wrapping around and impacting them there. But, regardless of this development, the same graphic's been used all week, and it's for good reason. It pretty much is the point here. We are still looking at those scattered showers and thunderstorms set up yesterday, today, and again tomorrow along this boundary, as we see an area of low pressure develop along a bit just towards the east of Jacksonville and the First Coast. And this is a little zoomed in on where the heaviest of the rainfall is likely going to take place with this towards the south of Jacksonville here on our Thursday and Friday, especially out towards Orlando, the Daytona area. Jacksonville, you still can see 1 to 2 inches over the next few days, but I think the heavier stuff is going to be towards the south in general, especially here on our Thursday as we watch this. All right, so let's take a look at our sea surface temperatures. You might be curious, okay, it's late June. How are the waters looking? That's 74 right near the mouth of the St. Johns River, I think is misleading because all up and down this area, we're looking at these sea surface temperatures into the 80s, mid-80s. And I want to... I have another graphic here that I want to try to see if I can pull up. Okay, the potential energy in the tropics. This is the one I was looking for. And you can see, actually, look at that kind of tongue sticking out here just north of Cuba, and it kind of wraps up with the Gulf Stream. That is showing the deep water warmth with our sea surface temperatures. And, that area south of Cuba, definitely it is very heavy. And this shows you the depth of those 80-degree temperatures. The brighter the colors, the deeper it is. You see how this kind of extends up with the Gulf Stream. And that's one reason why we're seeing a little bit more energy just right over where you're potentially going to be looking at this tropical development off the coast. Because not only sea surface temperatures being into the 80s, but there is a bit of depth there as to right over the Gulf Stream, which is where I do think the highest risk of this developing is. So there's another look at this medium chance of tropical development. Now that I've done a little walkthrough on what we're anticipating here, and actually I should pull up some of the ensembles. I'm going to try to do that too. I do want to hear from some of you. If where you're watching from, if you have any questions or anything like that, I would like to hear from you and try to, see if I can answer some of that here for you. So Brian says, hello, Robert. How's the Jumbo Shrimp game looking tomorrow night? Oh, you have tickets there, Brian. You know what? For tomorrow evening, what time does the game start? Brian, you can double check with me. I can Google it real quick, but I believe they typically start on Friday at 6:30, 7 o'clock. the rain should be tapering off by then. So that's more than likely we're going to see showers mid to late afternoon. And then by 6, 7 o'clock, the rain should be tapering off. Or if not, it's tapering off, as I mentioned, that northeasterly breeze is going to be pushing anything that develops further towards the west. And let's go back to our future cast, and I can just kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So just let's look at this. So here you go. This is Friday morning. There's that broad area of low pressure, and see right there midday, the showers do develop along I-95 corridor. But because of that northeasterly flow, that should usher most of that precip further towards the east. So there's 6:30. Most of the storms are venturing out towards the I-75 corridor and west. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to be completely dry. We're still going to be looking at plenty of cloud cover over Jacksonville, and I do think within that cloud cover we could see some pockets of rainfall, but the heavier stuff would be towards the west. So I wouldn't be canceling your tickets. I actually think you're going to might luck out here for some 4th of July baseball out there at the Jumbo Shrimp. So thanks for asking that, Brian. Ed says, is Atlantic Beach going to get any of this of that for the 4th of July Eve? So do you mean today or tomorrow? Anyways, and as I've mentioned here, I think the problem at Atlantic Beach, today you're going to see storms out there. That's the truth. I mean, look at this. For today, basically storms are all going to bubble up all along the I-95 corridor and then slowly drift off towards the south and west. So today and during this afternoon, you are going to be seeing some storms. But tomorrow, I think the bigger issue on Friday and Saturday for Atlantic Beach, and I just went over this. If you just jumped on and you missed it, that's fine. For Atlantic Beach is this right here. Let's look at this, 2, 3 o'clock. Solid northeasterly breeze if we do see this area of low pressure develop off towards the east, which is looking more and more likely. And I keep on calling it a low pressure area. It could be a tropical depression at that point. Don't let that scare you, though. Because it's going to be towards our east, so we're kind of on the less dirty side of this. A lot of heavy storms are going to be out to sea. But regardless, we may see a bit of a sort of a nor'easter setup. Now, the good news, this is not going to last for days, so I'm not so worried about storm surge and the high tides and stuff like that. But for Atlantic Beach, Neptune Beach, and pretty much all along our coast, rip currents and rough surf are going to be an issue. So, yeah, Atlantic Beach included. I mean, you can still go to the beach. It's probably not going to be pleasant because it's going to be breezy. I just highly advise to stay out of the water. And I'm sure lifeguards are going to be out there tracking this and advising people. I don't want to be surprised if you see red flags. So as somebody's, I think that Sabrina is trying to be a smart aleck here in the comments, and I don't mind calling you out if you're going to be like that. So tell us if the Department of Defense has stopped providing weather data to all of us in addition to canceling out any hurricane tracking models. How are you doing this right now? Unless that is a very real question, and I totally get that. So yeah, the Department of Defense has dropped a lot of data, as well as the National Weather Service. They've been cut back. There's been a lot of funding cutbacks. We can still provide data. It just may not be as accurate. And one of the things I think what you're leaning to, Sabrina, is microwave imagery, which I don't think I have any microwave imagery on here. But it is very useful during rapid intensification. So right now, models, well, to be honest, I've noticed personally some of these long-range guidances with especially the GFS, the American model, has taken a hit. It's confident. My confidence in it is gone down a lot. Not only here in the Atlantic, but I track storms in the Indian Ocean and the Western Pacific as well. And it just keeps on spinning up phantom storms. It is completely off its rocker lately. I can't say if that's directly contributed to reduce in data input into it, but A plus B or equals C typically. But you're thinking of microwave imagery, which is very useful when we actually have a named storm system out there and we can see the inner core of a storm. But unfortunately, we can't peer. If we lose those microwave satellites, we have a hard time peering through those upper level clouds. I mean, we can still get ahead with the forecast, but it does knock us back 10, 20 years as far as where we used to be compared to where we were just last year. That's not me hyping it. That's the God honest truth. Thankfully, we do have backups with hurricane hunters here in the Atlantic, but like the Eastern Pacific, storms near Hawaii, our military bases overseas, especially Okinawa. In the southern Japanese islands, where Okinawa has 80,000 American military members on it, and they get hit by typhoons every year. Lack of microwave imagery for that without hurricane recon is going to have a very dangerous and serious impact on our operational forces overseas. I used to track storms. I was part of the 7th Fleet staff. Tracking typhoons in the Western Pacific, and that was one of my main tools I used. So when I seen the news come down that they were cutting that microwave imagery funding, I just that was something I did find quite interesting. Hopefully now there is talk about replacing that product, so let's hope that replacement comes in soon, and then we'll be all right. Debbie's like, scaremongers, Jesus. Debbie, you can scream that all day, time and time again. We've been sitting here going, we're trying to give you the information, not scaremongering. Actually, I have been doing my best to reduce the scaremongering here and reduce the nervousness. We do this type of Talkin Tropics every day. We go through the data, and the first thing I said in the top of this broadcast was, let's reduce the hype and let's give you the facts. So, Debbie, I don't know what you're looking at. Maybe you get scared by looking at everything. I don't know, but I'm trying my best to keep you informed here. And I tell you right now, this area moving off towards the east, we're not getting a hurricane out here on the first coast. Take a deep breath. You'll be okay. Good morning, severe weather chaser. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Erica says, what about Fleming Island for boaters? So what specific time, Erica, are you thinking of? I could tell you, Fleming Island today, this morning, you're okay. This afternoon, you're going to get those storms in the area. You're going to be playing that boat frogger, is what I like to call it. And I have a boat that I'm fortunate enough to have gotten a decent deal on. And so I like to run around there, it's called boat frogger, where you kind of bounce around the storms today. The earlier you get out, the better. Tomorrow, my worry is along the St. Johns River during the afternoon. Let's go back over to that wind graphic, because so tomorrow during the afternoon, my worry is we're going to get that northerly breeze just kind of kicking and running straight up the river. It's not going to be like a destructive wind, but it is going to be a solid northerly breeze. So for those smaller crafts, if you got 20 feet and smaller, especially if you're getting down on some of those smaller vessels, it is going to be a solid chop out there on the St. John's with that northerly breeze running from north to south up the river. So it really is going to be a bit chop even over towards the Fleming Island area as well. I mean, if the wind was coming in from the west, I would say you're perfectly fine, but there is going to be a chop. Not a storm surge type condition. We're not worried about that. But for those smaller vessels, it's going to be a little bit on the stomach. You're like, ugh. You got a bigger boat, you'll probably be fine, but I would just be advised to make sure you check in with the National Weather Service for those small craft advisories. Plan accordingly. If you're going out with a bunch of friends and family that maybe, if you're a fisherman, you're used to the surf, fine. But if you're going out with some people that probably they don't want to be in some rough waters, I would say maybe keep the boat in the driveway here on our Friday. Just that's my advice. I wouldn't be taking mine out. It's going to be a little bit rough. Not the end of the world, but just, messy, to say the least. It's going to be a fish storm, only a threat to shipping interests, severe weather chaser says. That's a possibility, but here's the deal, friend. Maybe, this one right here, but there is a likelihood of this kind of developing and drifting north over towards the Carolinas. And that's my worry too, is that we could see kind of the right side of this develop, and we may not get the messiest weather here. But as we look ahead through, we'll watch the Saturday and the Sunday, right there, you see how this low pressure area drifts north, and if it drifts due north, we're actually going to be looking at some pretty rough weather for the South Carolina and North Carolina coastline, where you could almost see a bit of training effect. Now, not everybody would get in on the rainfall, and even to a smaller extent, the first coast. Not everybody's going to see the rain, but I do worry about some of these rain bands setting up. So I would definitely 1,000% not call this a fish storm because this is going to drift towards the north and probably skirt the coastline of the Carolinas. So there are impacts. A true fish storm, and a fish storm means only the fish are impacted, means you're not going to see any impacts from it. I mean, even here on the First Coast, we're getting a northeasterly breeze. We're getting some rip currents, some surf. So not a fish storm. What is a fish storm, unless that's what you're talking about, is Flossie, which is off of the West Coast. That's a fish storm. And what I mean by that, only the fish being impacted. See how far away from land that is? See how that's heading out to sea? There's one small island just south of the center, but that's one out there. That I know about that. Like I said, I was in the Navy. I know all about those fish storms when people are like, no one's being impacted. And I'm like, I'm sitting out there sortied out in the middle of the ocean going, you tell me no one's being impacted as I'm sitting in 20, 30-foot seas. I always hesitant on using the term fish storm because this is a very high shipping channel, too, between Jacksonville and up towards the Carolina coast. So there's some pretty decent impacts here. Crystal, thank you very much for your comment. Oh, okay. Severe Weather Chaser said, yes, Flossie. I got you. So we're on the same page. I got you. Sorry about that. I appreciate you. You got this, man. And I follow your page. You got some good stuff here. How is it going to be in Orlando? So what are you talking about specifically for Orlando? What specific day there, Sanja? Because I do believe... for our friends in Orlando, and if you're traveling out there this weekend, today going to be looking at those storms. Basically, first our storms are going to set up around the First Coast and a shift towards the south and west. Now, as we go ahead through Friday and the Saturday, you're still going to be looking at that chance of some rainfall for our friends further south. I wonder if I got to pull back this broader. Is this a broader picture here? Let's see if I can get a broader picture. So you see here Friday, you still got those storms south and west. Saturday, there is that chance of rainfall in Orlando. Yeah, see right there during the afternoon, kind of on the backside of this stationary boundary. But it won't be quite as widespread. So if you got plans maybe to go out to Disney or anything like that this weekend, I want to cancel them. If anything, 4th of July weekend in Orlando is always a disaster as far as just the amount of people that go there. If anything, if you get a light to moderate rain, it reduces the lines at the theme parks. And that's the type of day I like to go. I go the days I forecast a lot of rain in Orlando. Those are the times I'm like, oh, let's bounce over to Universal because then you can get in and out pretty quick. The only worry is I-4. I-4 is always a hot mess. And I would worry about afternoon storms on I-4 Saturday and Sunday, just kind of slowing things down. If you go there in the morning, though, if you're driving through in the morning, it's going to be fine. You'll be okay. But just kind of that lingering stationary boundary on the backside of this is where you're going to be looking at that chance of some showers and some of those storms out there. Severe Weather Chaser, yeah, Flossie's the fish storm, not the area of low pressure. I apologize. I corrected myself there. So, thanks for watching that and just checking in on it. Sanja, yeah, answered your question there. And Crystal, thank you very much for your comment too. Like I said, I like talking with you guys here on our Facebook page. I didn't check our YouTube channel. I got to make sure we don't have any questions there that I'm totally missing out on. I bet you there's like 50 comments there. Oh, not really. Okay, good. I didn't really miss anything there, so I appreciate that. But if you are watching on those platforms, or if you're watching us live on First Coast News Plus, that's fantastic. If you've been watching us since 4:30 to 9 a.m. every day, Monday through Friday at least, we're going to be streaming on First Coast News Plus no matter what. We've extended the morning news show all the way out to the afternoon. By the way, we're talking about this tropical area here, and I went through and answered a couple of your questions, and I do want to answer some more of your questions here in regards to this potential tropical development and the nomenclature with some of these storms. So I'm going to toss you over to our meteorologist, Lee Southwick. She's going to talk about some of the terms that you may not be familiar with.
Tropical wave is a term you hear frequently before a storm forms. A tropical wave is an unorganized area of storms traveling west out of Africa. These are important to follow because around 85% of major hurricanes begin as tropical waves. Another common term you hear is INVEST. INVEST stands for Investigative Area. When a tropical wave becomes more organized, the National Hurricane Center will designate the area of disturbed weather as an INVEST. Each INVEST is given a number from 90 to 99. For example, INVEST 90L. The L tells us the system is in the Atlantic. This also allows the NHC to run ensemble models or spaghetti models on these systems. You might also hear the term cyclone during hurricane season. A cyclone is a blanket term for any area of low pressure that has a closed circulation. Hurricanes, tropical storms, and tropical depressions are all cyclones because they are closed areas of low pressure. Meteorologist Lee Southwick, First Coast News on your side.
Nice. I love me some infographics. If you like those, that right there, it takes us time to put it together. If you want to see more of that or on demand or you want to find it on YouTube, let us know in the comment section. Because the more you give us feedback, I can take these feedbacks and give it to our management and say, more resources to that. So let me know. I like those little infographics and stuff. It's really cool stuff there. So yeah, here once again we have this. Let's recap here real quick. We have a medium chance of tropical development off of the east coast of the state of Florida here. You see that X right there actually is new as of 8 a.m. They are saying, they could have that low pressure center develop just off of the Cape and then slowly drift towards the north. This is not a cone of air by any means. It's just saying that somewhere within that region, we're going to have that now 60% chance of tropical development. And look, this is the culprit for it. This is the catalyst for this tropical development. It is this front. Let me draw it on the screen right there. See that front? See all that convection lined up along the Gulf Stream, extending over the state of Florida? This is it. This is it to the T of what we've been saying since last Thursday. We've been saying that somewhere along, there's going to be a boundary that sets up. And before even looking at the models, this time of year, you get a boundary setting up over the state of Florida, and it extends off towards the Gulf Stream or even towards the west here. We sometimes get things spin up in our models. And the guidance at this time is continuing to increase that something along that front could spin up here with an area of low pressure, which, we tighten up an area of low pressure, you get convection around the center. By definition, that would be a tropical depression. So a tropical depression does not mean a hurricane, by the way. I've been through many of tropical depressions where you're like, okay, it's a little breezy. What's the deal? We're not saying that it's going to be a hurricane, just tropical depression, which in this scenario means an uptick in showers, especially in some of these feeder bands feeding into it. But also that we're going to see a solid northeasterly breeze, which means rough surf, rip currents out near our coastal areas. Plus, on the south side of this, where you have that inflow, we could even see some tornadic risk kind of spin up with this too. That's here or there. I don't think that's going to be so much on the first coast. That would be more of a South Florida problem. But it really just depends on where this does develop and where it heads. And you can see right here that the bulk of the precipitation forecast extends this off towards the north and out towards the Carolinas. So it's something that if it does spin up, it could spin up pretty quickly. The good news is that even before this is named, let's say the National Hurricane Center does say that this could be named. Before it's named, you may even see a track already put out on this as a potential tropical cyclone, which this year in 2025, the National Hurricane Center is even going to start issuing potential tropical cyclones earlier than we have seen in years past. In fact, I'm going to bring meteorologist Lee Southwick back in here because she is going to talk about this change in 2025 that's important for you and kind of more of a heads up in our tropical weather forecasting. Lee?
Updates are coming this hurricane season that will allow for advance notice of pending tropical systems. A potential tropical cyclone is a tropical system that's not yet a tropical storm or hurricane, but could become one and impact land. These are usually issued about 48 hours ahead of any potential land impacts. But new this year, they could be issued up to 72 hours ahead of any landfall or land impacts. Now, potential tropical cyclones are issued when there is high confidence in significant wind and storm surge risk. So this extra lead time will now allow people in the path of that tropical system to have an advanced heads up and prepare more thoroughly. I'm meteorologist Lee Southwick. First Coast News on your side.
All right. Thank you very much, Lee. Did have another question here in our comments section of this update. Are they sending any hurricane hunters onto it? I've been checking the day planners. I have not seen anything posted about it yet, about sending out the hurricane hunters. I'm sure there are discussions over there at Kiesler, but nothing is on the day planner just yet to send the C-130s into this area. I think they're probably going to wait for a defined low-level center to develop, because right now it's more of a broad low. So even if you sent the recon in there, they would have a hard, like, where would they go, right? The recon is specifically designed, as I'm sure a lot of people watching this know, to get that low-level data, the high-resolution data, where that low-level circulation is once it does start to pop up, because that gets ingested into the models, and that helps increase the confidence of that guidance, which goes back to my rant earlier about microwave imagery and all that, and that being cut back. It's the more data, the better the accuracy and the confidence in that forecast. If you just take in satellite data, sometimes the models will just kick out anything. It's the chaos theory, right? The better data you ingest in, the better output you have. Our models can be the best in the world with high resolution data, but if you have poor input, so if they send recon, I'd be happy. But right now, they just need to get that low-level circulation kind of set up where we can get this good information in. So, yeah, anyways, once again, medium chance of tropical development out here in the Atlantic. We're going to continue to keep monitoring this over the course of the next few days. Not hyping it or anything, but there is a chance of a low-pressure area, maybe a tropical depression. A low chance, but it's possible of Chantel. I think it would be more of Carolina's problem instead of the first coast in the state of Florida, because anything that is developed is going to want to try to move towards the northeast, riding along the stationary boundary, which would definitely make for some messy conditions for our friends all on the North Carolina coastline out towards the Outer Banks and all that. Not a hurricane, based on what I'm seeing now, but rain, not a great 4th of July weekend. For the first coast, passing showers as we go ahead through Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but I think the bigger issue is going to be the rough surf along our coastal areas. Rip currents. If you're not at the beach, not worry. If you're not boating, don't worry. But if you plan on going to Jekyll Island and hanging out at the beach, I specifically say Jekyll Island because I'm thinking southeast Georgia, around Brunswick is going to be the highest chance of some gusty conditions here for the first coast. Just kind of closer to that pressure gradient, that low-level center there on the north side of this as that onshore wind kicks around. So something to watch out for as we go ahead through this weekend. Not saying cancel your plans, but staying weather aware. You're watching the stream right now, so guess what? You are staying weather aware. So make sure everybody around you is staying weather aware, and you continue to check back in here at First Coast News. Tell them as well, if you want to ask a meteorologist some questions, jump on these live streams, fire away. And even the ones where I get it, you're being critical and you're asking some of those questions where I'm kind of joking with you. I actually appreciate that, because if you do listen, to me when I talk about, microwave imagery and, not trying to hype and giving the real stuff, I think we're all educating each other. That's the key thing. You can tell me what you think. I tell you what I think. It's all about staying informed. And that's the whole point of news, right? Staying informed with the most accurate information. That's what we're trying to do here with these live streams. So always, if you have any questions or if you ever want to hit me up on social media, shoot. I'm here. I'm willing to talk with you about anything here. So as always, thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay dry out there, and I hope you enjoy your 4th of July weekend. You get that barbecue going, and everybody keeps their 10 digits attached to their bodies after Friday evening here. All right, thanks for watching, and thanks for stopping by.
This is a Tracking the Tropics update with the certified most accurate weather team at First Coast News.